Imagine a warm evening in the 1950s. The lights are low, a gentle orchestra plays in the background, and a group of fashionable socialites gathers in a grand ballroom. Somewhere in this scene, you see a striking woman with perfectly coiffed dark hair, a graceful posture, and a captivating smile. That woman is Gloria Guinness, an icon of style, a muse to some of the greatest fashion designers of the era, and part of Truman Capote's legendary circle known as the Swans. She glides across society pages the way a dancer glides across a stage, leaving behind a trail of mystery and elegance. Let us reflect on Gloria Guinness through the lens of the glamorous home she once possessed. Places that, like silent witnesses, cradled her secrets and her style. Born in 1912 as Gloria Rubio y La Torre, she was a woman of many names, many stories, some of which she may have crafted. She spent part of her early life in Mexico, but it wasn't long before she began her ascent into international society. Her impeccable style and keen sense for fashion would catch the eye of editors, designers, and fellow socialites around the world. Eventually, she married Lowell Guinness, a member of the renowned Guinness brewing family, thus inheriting not just a famous surname, but also a passport to the glittering life of global high society. Truman Capote, intrigued by her beauty and refined mystique, counted her among his select circle of friends, these swans who graced his parties, his writings, and his memories. In many ways, Gloria was emblematic of the jet-set era, those sparkling decades after the Second World War, when travel became easier for the rich and famous, and the world seemed smaller for those who could hop across oceans on a whim. She was an editor for Harper's Bazaar, a muse to designers like Yves Saint Laurent, and a fixture in the best-dressed lists that shaped global fashion trends. Yet for all her visibility, Gloria guarded her personal history so closely that she remained something of an enigma. And perhaps part of that enigma lives on in the spectacular residences she and Lowell owned, each revealing a different facet of her life and personality. So let's step through the doors of these homes, one by one, and imagine the hostess awaiting us on the other side, elegant, poised, offering a small, charming smile as we enter her world. We begin our journey in Acapulco, Mexico, at a magnificent cliffside retreat that seemed to defy gravity. Picture a house perched dramatically on the rocky coastline with panoramic views of the sparkling Pacific Ocean. Acapulco, in the mid-20th century, was the destination of choice for Hollywood stars and European aristocrats alike. It was a haven of sunshine, turquoise waters, and lively parties that often stretched into the early hours of the morning. There, perched high above the ocean spray, Gloria and Lowell's home offered both privacy and the perfect vantage point for entertaining visiting luminaries. The house itself was a blend of modernist flair with traditional Mexican touches, white walls reflecting the intense tropical sun, wide open terraces and living spaces designed to capture the ocean breeze. And at night, with lanterns lighting the pathways and the gentle lull of the waves below, one could imagine an enchanting gathering of well-heeled guests dressed in flowing caftans or crisp dinner jackets, sipping cocktails as they laughed away the evening. Gloria's Acapulco home was not just an architectural gem, it was an emblem of her own ability to merge cultures, styles, and influences. She was Mexican by birth, but thoroughly international in her tastes, linking two worlds in a seamless, sophisticated blend. Even today, if you stand on that cliff in Acapulco, you can almost sense the distant echo of evening parties. The clink of glasses, the soft, lilting music wafting across the balmy night air. From the bright sun of Mexico, let's move to the elegant streets of Paris, where Gloria kept another residence that was the epitome of French refinement. Picture the stately boulevards, lined with perfectly manicured trees, the glow of street lamps on cobblestone sidewalks, and the gentle hum of Parisian life in the background. It was here that Gloria maintained a chic apartment that captured the spirit of haute couture and literary salons. Paris was, after all, her runway, and fashion houses like Chanel, Balenciaga, and Dior were part of her daily orbit. Those who visited her Parisian apartment described it as a sanctuary of impeccable taste, slim furnishings, artworks curated with a discerning eye, draperies in rich but subtle fabrics. By day, the large windows would filter in the soft Parisian light, giving everything a certain romantic glow. One can imagine Gloria seated by a small writing desk, penning letters or making notes on upcoming fashion events, perhaps reaching for a cup of tea and fine porcelain. By night, she might host intimate gatherings for designers, artists, and fellow socialites, with lively discussions taking place over champagne in crystal flutes. This was not a place for raucous parties. It was a home for those who appreciated the finer details in life, conversation, art, gastronomy, and, above all, elegance. She possessed a remarkable collection of couture gowns here, meticulously cared for, a testament to the importance she placed on personal style. In this Paris flat, Gloria lived at the heart of a city that has always been synonymous with high fashion, and she herself became an icon of that world. Then we come to New York, Fifth Avenue, no less. For decades, Fifth Avenue has been the internationally recognized address of prestige and power. Gloria's apartment there was the perfect reflection of her global standing. Close to Central Park, near the luxury boutiques of Madison Avenue, and within a social sphere that included everyone, from publishing magnates to European nobility passing through the city. New York was a different pace altogether, faster, more electric, demanding. And Gloria, with her adaptability, moved effortlessly within that thrumming environment. The apartment itself stood in one of those venerable buildings with a dignified facade, complete with a doorman in a crisp uniform who greeted guests with polished courtesy. Upon entering, visitors would step into a foyer adorned with tasteful arrangements of fresh flowers, which changed with the seasons. The living area likely boasted large windows overlooking the park, the sweeping green canopy offering a soothing contrast to Manhattan's bustling streets below. Though it was undeniably grand, the space was said to remain welcoming. A subtle color palette, carefully chosen antiques, and a selection of modern pieces offered a glimpse of her eclectic but harmonious taste. One might imagine the hush of the private elevator delivering guests to an evening salon, men in finely tailored suits, women in cocktail dresses, and glittering jewels, each welcomed by Gloria's soft voice and gracious charm. Truman Capote himself might have sipped a martini in the corner, taking mental notes for a future short story. It was in such gatherings that Gloria's role as a muse and confidant came to life, her presence gently commanding admiration without ever feeling ostentatious. But perhaps no residence captures the romantic fantasy of her life as poignantly as the Château de Bela in Slovakia. A world away from the modern hustle of Paris and New York, this castle-like estate transported visitors into an older, more serene era. Thick walls, expansive grounds, and centuries of history seemed to converge in this hidden gem. Gloria's connection to European aristocracy was heightened here, the grandeur of the place reflecting her marriage into the Guinness family and her ties to circles of nobility. One can imagine winding roads leading to tall gates, a sweeping driveway, and the chateau itself rising in quiet majesty before you. Overlooking lush greenery, the estate might have had large ornate windows, grand dining halls, and a library where light dust motes swirl gently in a sunbeam. Perhaps there was even a chapel, echoing with silent reverence for the passing of time. Many such châteaux were once filled with the daily clamor of servants and guests, but in modern times, they often settle into a deep tranquility, carrying secrets of past inhabitants in every stone. In Gloria's day, though, the halls would still have felt alive. Visiting nobles, aristocrats, and socialites might have convened there for weekend hunts, elaborate dinners, or simple escapes from city life. Through the corridors, you could almost hear the click of heels on marble floors, the rustle of a couture gown, the distant laughter from a drawing room. The castle grounds held gardens where guests might stroll in the late afternoon, discussing the next season's fashions or the latest society gossip. Yet, despite the magnificence of these locales, what lingered most around Gloria was a subtle, enigmatic aura. She was at once visible, featured in countless fashion magazines, and yet fiercely protective of her personal history. Over the years, stories emerged about her origins, her relationships, and her past marriages, but she rarely confirmed or denied them in detail. Much like the residences she inhabited, she offered just enough of a glimpse to enchant and intrigue, but always kept the deeper layers sheltered behind a polite smile and impeccable manners. Gloria Guinness belongs to that special category of socialites who transcended mere celebrity. In her world, fame was not a loud, garish declaration, but a refined presence cultivated in quiet drawing rooms and private clubs. She appeared in society columns not because she courted publicity, but because her graceful style and aristocratic network naturally drew the gaze of photographers and columnists. For many years, she wrote for Harper's Bazaar, sharing insights into elegant living, everything from fashion to entertaining. Yet, she never quite revealed the full tapestry of her life, leaving admirers to wonder about the woman behind the polished persona. The men and women in her social circle were equally fascinating. The Duke and Duchess of Windsor, Diana Vreeland, society photographers like Cecil Beaton, and countless aristocrats and magnates from both sides of the Atlantic. In such circles, discretion was the golden rule. People knew how to show themselves at their best, how to dress, how to host, how to float gracefully across a crowded ballroom without delving too deeply into personal vulnerabilities. Perhaps that is why the homes of Gloria Guinness hold such allure. They were settings for a life that appeared picture-perfect from the outside, each one a stage upon which she performed. Yet, we suspect that behind the walls, behind the shimmering curtains and well-appointed rooms, there must have been stories never told, whispers of triumphs, heartbreaks, and the day-to-day realities of a woman who managed to make everything look effortless. Now, with the passage of time, these properties, Acapulco's sunlit villa, the refined apartment in Paris, the grand Fifth Avenue residence, the tranquil European château, take on an even more haunting beauty. In some cases, the homes might still exist in forms changed by renovation and new ownership. In others, they may have been sold off, closed, or repurposed. But each one remains a silent witness to the glitter and secrets of Gloria's life. Like postcards from another era, they stand as a testament to a world where travel was glamorous, parties lasted until dawn, and a handful of individuals, like Gloria Guinness, moved through life with a grace we rarely see today. In trying to understand Gloria, we find ourselves looking more closely at these homes, these backdrops to her public and private encounters. The cliffs of Acapulco remind us of her deep, though somewhat distant, Latin American roots. The refined apartment in Paris calls to mind her command of European high society and her unerring instinct for style. The sumptuous Fifth Avenue abode in Manhattan speaks to her place in the pinnacle of American social circles. And finally, the Château de Bella hints at a more regal chapter, one tied to centuries of European history. We come to the end of our journey, dear friends, reflecting on something deeper than mere architecture or expensive furnishings. These homes, with their walls and floors and carefully designed spaces, hosted the day-to-day reality of an extraordinary life. Over the years, they bore witness to hushed conversations, small joys, fleeting sorrows, and many dazzling gatherings. And as with all great homes, they stand in quiet testimony to lives once lived, elegant, mysterious, full of whispered stories. In the end, what remains of Gloria Guinness? Her name graces old magazines. Her photos appear in curated social media posts celebrating vintage style. And her mention in Capote's Recollections offers a faint echo of that storied circle of Swans. Yet in a more personal sense, her legacy reminds us of how transient it all is. No matter how impeccably we decorate our lives, time moves forward, leaving behind empty rooms and memories that fade into the tapestry of history. But there is beauty in that too. Each home we inhabit becomes part of our personal story, a stage for our loves, our dreams, our friendships. And long after we've gone, those walls still stand as silent witnesses, carrying within them the essence of who we were. So let us hold on to the vision of Gloria Guinness in an evening gown, pausing on a terrace in Acapulco or walking with measured grace across a Parisian salon. Let us remember her in a Fifth Avenue foyer, greeting a dear friend with a gentle laugh or strolling through the grounds of a centuries-old château in the European countryside. And as we think of those walls and windows, we might reflect on our own lives, on the rooms we've called our own, the parties we've hosted, the stories we've whispered in quiet corners. For in that reflection lies the understanding that these homes do more than shield us from the elements. They cradle our memories, stand guard over our joys and sorrows, and bear testament to our passage through this world. And like Gloria's legacy, they remain, humming with the echoes of the lives that gave them meaning.